You guys have to make your own decision, but how I'm looking at this is, all right, welcome to Talkin' Investing. I am Tom, and as always, this is not financial advice. We're here to talk about all things investing. We do a lot of Bitcoin mining and Bitcoin-related videos on this channel, so if you enjoy that content, please subscribe to the channel. Today, I want to go through a company called CleanSpark. They are a Bitcoin miner / energy company. They reported their fourth quarter earnings. So I want to go through their earnings, take a look at their chart. I'm going to let you guys know what I think about it and how I'm going to be playing CleanSpark. Okay, I'm just going to start on their press release. CleanSpark reports fourth quarter and fiscal year 2021 financial results. Just to clear up the confusion, CleanSpark does not have a December 31st year end. Their fiscal year end is September 30th. So September 30th, 2021 was their fourth quarter of the year 2021. This is their end of the year report. They filed their 10K, which is their annual report. And I'm going to start out going through their press release, and then I want to go through what I think is going on with them. After hours yesterday, this stock got beat up pretty good. The knee-jerk reaction after hours was to sell yesterday. The next morning, they sold off pretty heavy. Now, yesterday, there was a big rally in Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners, so CleanSpark actually ended up positive, but it was down 12 or 13% in the morning off of these earnings. So I think people judge these a little bit harshly and too quickly. So if we take a little bit of a deeper dive, let me show you what I'm thinking about this, because I was actually impressed with what they're doing. It's not perfect. They've got things they need to improve on, but this is a very new high growth company. So it's important to bear that in mind when you're looking at them. They have been mining Bitcoin for less than 1 year. So one of the things I want to hit on is during their conference call, they talked about the fact that they now consider themselves a Bitcoin mining company. They do have another segment to this company that has to do with microgrids and energy efficiency, and they're not abandoning that. But they did come out on the call yesterday and acknowledge, just strictly from a revenue standpoint, the vast majority of their activity is going to be Bitcoin mining, just because that is where the opportunity exists. They are going to use a lot of their own technology in their own Bitcoin mining process to be more efficient and reduce the cost of mining their Bitcoin. They will also continue to pursue sales of their microgrids and their energy efficiency services. So they're not abandoning that, but they have made a shift to being predominantly a Bitcoin mining company. And I'm okay with that. We go through a lot of Bitcoin mining companies on this channel, and you're going to see, I believe they're going to be highly profitable doing this. So they start out by saying 12-month revenue increased nearly 400% to $49.4 million from 1 year ago period. Now, the vast majority of that, about $40 million of that, was from Bitcoin mining. And we're going to go through their month-by-month Bitcoin mining because they basically started at zero. In fact, in the 12-month period ended September 30th, October and November of that 12-month period, I believe their Bitcoin mined was 0 and 0. So they truly are. This is their absolute first year in the industry. So they've gone through a big learning curve. As all you guys probably know, it's not just as easy as plugging in a machine and counting your money. So there's a lot of infrastructure involved. They did have a head start because they are an energy efficiency company, but they've gone through a massive learning curve, and you're going to see the results are rather spectacular in my opinion. Okay, so some other of the financial highlights. I'm not going to dwell on this, but they lost money this year. Their loss was about $21 million. Now, I will tell you the vast majority of that was non-cash items. So this is pretty typical for a very early stage. And I know this is not a new company, but the reality is they are new to Bitcoin mining, so they had to reinvent themselves this year. There was some massive expenses that went along with that. A lot of them were non-cash expenses, impairments, write-offs. They also had a lot of non-cash employee compensation. So that was $20+ million right there. And I know that investors don't love that. So I don't want to argue that point. I'm just going to point out they did have a lot of non-cash compensation this year, and that was one of the reasons that they generated a loss on paper. So conversely, if we back all that out, adjusted EBITDA on a non-GAAP basis was about $9 million of income. So from that, you can see that this is a formula that can make money, and I do believe they will make money, and we'll take a look at that more closely later as well. The last thing I want to look at, and I think this is the most important thing, The 3 months ended September 30th, 2021, which was their fourth quarter. Revenue for the 3 months ended September 30th, 2021 was $27.1 million. They do a year-over-year calculation and show that that's a 1,300% increase, but that's not what I want to talk about. So fourth quarter revenue was $27.1 million. I want to go to their third quarter press release. Okay, so you can see CleanSpark reports financial results for the third quarter ended June 30th, 2021. So this is the previous quarter. So what I wanted to point out here is 3 months ended June 30th, 2021. Revenue for the 3 months ended June 30th, 2021 was $11.9 million. So Q3, they had $11.9 million in revenue. And again, if we go back to Q4, you're going to see $27.1 million in revenue. So that is a monumental quarter-over-quarter growth rate. You will not find very many companies that quarter-over-quarter grow at that rate. So that's more than 100% increase in their revenue, from 11.9 to 27.1 million. Now, they are not going to sustain that rate of growth, but they will continue to grow. They have a massive amount of machines that have been purchase ordered. They've put deposits down. Their deliveries are already scheduled over the next 12 months, and they're getting some monthly, including in December. They're actually anticipating a pretty big increase in their mining capacity in the month of December. So we'll take a look at the month by month. That's been going very well, and December should be their very best month of the year. Let's just take a quick look at their balance sheet. There's two columns on here, September 30th, 2020, so that is the end of last year, and then September 30th, 2021, that is the end of this year. So I just want to go to a few numbers. You're going to see total current assets, so that's your current liquid assets, cash, cash equivalents, accounts receivable. They had $8.2 million last year. They've raised that to $57.7 million in current assets this year. Or more impressive than that is their total assets. At September 30th, 2020, which was the end of last year, they had $22 million in assets as a company. At September 30th, 2021, this year, they have $317 million in assets. So they've increased their total assets by about 15x in 1 year. And this is real stuff. So like I said, 57 million of that is actually current assets. Another significant item is they have almost $88 million on deposit for additional equipment that they've already ordered that, like I said, will be delivered. So this is a company that has ramped up their balance sheet in a massive way. That's a 15x on the assets. And then if we look at the other side, total liabilities, they went from about 6 million to 12 million. So total liabilities, for all intents and purposes, is relatively the same number, and they 15x'd their amount of assets on their balance sheet. That's going to be an important part of their success equation going forward. Let's take a quick look at their chart. These are 1 hour candles, so this is about the last couple of weeks. And if you look, right here is December 3rd. This was the day that Bitcoin had the flash crash. So prior to that day, they were trading over $16. So from where they closed today, just to get back to where they were prior to the December 3rd flash crash of Bitcoin, it's almost a 40% increase in their stock price that would be required. That would get them from the $11.58 that they closed at today up to, just over $16. So obviously a lot of this is dependent on what Bitcoin does. So this to me would be a short-term goal. I'm still bullish on Bitcoin. I do believe that Bitcoin will recover. I'm not saying it's going to recover tomorrow. The last month has been pretty slow and pretty painful. Today was another classic example of a painful day. Not much happened. Bitcoin pretty much went sideways, and CleanSpark was down 7.5% on the day today. So CleanSpark got beat up along with all of the other Bitcoin miners were red today. Very tough day in the Bitcoin mining sector. A lot of that had to do with the fact that the general equity markets really got hit hard today, and so the Bitcoin miners got dragged down with them. So the first thing I would say on this chart is we got about a 40% upside just to get back to where we were less than 2 weeks ago prior to this flash crash. Now, I don't know how long that's going to take. That could take a week, 2 weeks, a month. And again, this is not financial advice. These are my thoughts, and this is how I'm playing this. I did buy a little bit of CleanSpark today. I added to my already decent-sized position because I thought a 7.5% pullback on a day where not much was happening was a buying opportunity. The only thing that I'm trying to do is to be careful to not keep buying in at the same price, because we've been on a roller coaster yo-yo ride. So for Cleanspark to pull back at 7.5%, if all it's doing is pulling back to a number that you've already made a purchase at, it may not be time to buy in again. For me, it was time to buy a little bit. So again, not financial advice. You guys have to manage your own portfolios. Let's just zoom out a little bit on this chart and then we'll wrap this thing up. This green circle right here is around September 29th. That was the end of the short-term bear market that we had in September. From there, you'll see we had a massive upswing. In the next about 5 weeks, Cleanspark was up over 115%. So that's how violently these can move. So it is very frustrating right now as these are down and beaten down. But understand, we just a month and a half ago had a stretch where Cleanspark was up 115%. So if I were to go from where we closed today back to our highs of just a little over 1 month ago, that's about 6 weeks ago, that would be a 101% increase for Cleanspark. I'm not predicting that's going to happen in the short term, but I do believe that we will retest our highs. Again, this is not financial advice. You guys have to make your own decision. But how I'm looking at this is I am buying and holding because I believe we will retest our all-time highs, and that leaves over 100% upside just to get back to where we were. So those are my thoughts on Cleanspark. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in the next video.